Check one, check one.
All right, it's time for us to start. I'm going to make an announcement on some of the sick here. All right, all sailors be quiet. Uh, an update on some of the sick. John and Betty Swift are now home. They got home on the 30th. They was asked if they needed meals, and they said no, that they was doing fine on that. Copeland is home, and she still has some weakness. Julia Russian said she seems to be doing a little better and hoping to get discharged in a day or two. I did my thing. I was told that Howard is either going to be moved today or tomorrow, or really in the near future, to where Katie's at. And I think that's down in, is that down in Magnolia? Or that's where Katie, or just very soon, maybe today or tomorrow. Do you have any other, know anybody else we need to pray for? Of course, Bailey, we'll continue to remember her in our prayers. Yes. Tina Cossey? Tina Cox, okay. And also the Gary Haynes family, need to remember them also. All right, let's bow and go to our Heavenly Father word of prayer. Almighty God, our eternal Father, we humbly come before you at this time to thank you for all the good things that you blessed our lives with. And Father, to make requests for those who need our prayers. Father, we
Okay, can you hear me now? So you got the microphone. We got sort of the first verse of the first chapter after he did some background information, and where the Jacob and Joseph were in Israel, and then all of Joseph's family died, and then Jacob was there with his 70 souls to populate and to multiply and become a mighty people based on God's prophecy that he would do this. In verse 8 through 14, Roy, could you read that?
And there rose a new king over Egypt who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, "Look, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply, and it happen, in the event of war, that they may join our enemies and fight against us, and so go up out of the land." Verse 10.
14.
Therefore, they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh supply cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were in dread of the children of Israel. So the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar, in brick, and all the manner of service in the field. All their service in which they made them serve was with rigor.
Okay, we see in these verses, what do we know about the Pharaoh at this time? What are the things we know about him? Do we know his name? Yeah, there's a guess of Ramses, and I can't pronounce the other one. It starts with H-Y-K-S-O-E. There's two different theories of who that was, which doesn't matter. What was something significant about him? What did he know or didn't know? What is significant about what this Pharaoh knew about what was going on here? He didn't know Joseph, right? He didn't know Joseph, so he didn't know how well he was liked and how well he was in favor there. So the people of the children of Israel grew mighty than we, and we come. He was going to deal with them wisely. Now, how do you deal with people that's growing, that's doing that wisely? Was he a wise man, the Pharaoh? Yeah, just shrewdly and wisely. You don't have to be right to be a wise person, do you? Not necessarily. But the wisely and shrewdly is where you deal with them. Because why was he scared of them?
The more they made them work, the more they multiplied. It seemed like.
Well, why was he scared of them first?
Well, it was growing more.
Growing more. And
More population.
what about their enemies? They might join with their enemies and come and take over the empire there. So what's the first thing he did to try to stop this? First thing he did. Made them work more, hard on them. I don't guess they give you any specific except what they say here, but you can imagine them kind of being over. I got to get a picture of them working hard and them being over, pushing them to do more, do more with less, like he said, the bricks and the straw, and to still make the progress they need to make them make it hard on them, so they might not grow. And what did that do to them? Made them kind of kind of build back up. I was in a class when Fred Hartman College at the Estes Church of Christ. We were studying the class, and he asked that question in the class: what would happen if things got hard and things were tough for like weak brethren in the church, or what would it do to some people like that maybe? And some people said, well, it might make them quit. But I feel like that when Christians are backed up against a fence, if we've got some good faith and some good background and some good support from other people, we would do the same thing. And that's one of the key lessons we need to learn from that no matter how hard Pharaoh tried to do this to these people, it just made them have more people and more determined to do the things that Pharaoh was scared of. And also we understand this, that no matter what people do to us, God cannot be stopped. And as a Christian, sometimes I think we forget that. I think we forget that if God's in control, if God's for you, who could be against you? And we do not sometimes take that to heart when we go out into the world and say, well, we're going to give up sometimes. It says, I can't do it. But if God took Moses here, which we'll find later, and would do that. He tries to oppress us due to our exposing people's sins. Let Christians today gain greater insight into our purpose in life when being persecuted for doing which is right. Let us grow spiritually stronger the more we are afflicted. Anybody got any other comments on those verses? More insight? I'll make some comments now because I'll run out of material real quick. I don't have much time to study for this. Okay, I hate to keep Pastor Roy reading. If you want to pass that around, let somebody else read. Doesn't matter. You pick somebody. The next verses 15 through 22. 15 through 22.
15 through 22. Already turned? Yep, there you go.
And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Ruth, a pure. My eyes are not too good, are they? And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him, but if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives, why have you and have saved? Them houses. Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive.
Things sound funny. I better turn that off. Okay, we see here his second attempt to try to thwart the growth of the Israelites here, and he told the midwives. It's funny here. One of the commentaries mentioned. He said, "You mean they only had two midwives for all these? How many? 600 plus people, women." Yeah, they only named two of them, but. Somebody said that they probably might be the head over all of them, but that was kind of interesting side note there. And what did they do? Why did they defy Pharaoh? Were they not scared of Pharaoh? So they disobeyed, but then what'd they do when they were asking, what's going on here? What'd they do? Yeah. Did they lie to him? May have, may not have. I think he stressed the truth. Maybe kind of knew what was going on, but really didn't. We're not told, but that's an interesting side note too there that they told. And here's another point. If you're a Pharaoh, you're supposed to be powerful and mighty and all this, and some midwives come to you and tell you this story, wouldn't you be kind of mad, and would you accept that? You wouldn't think so. If he let two women deceive him, put him under, or put him in his place, basically, or you might say he didn't question them anymore. He didn't follow up. He didn't check into it. He just let it go. That's kind of course, I've been taught. I've been told too, when I was at work and tell people, they give people ask them questions. I said, if you give an answer that's bold and you act like you know what you're talking about and you stick to your guns, people believe you. But if you're kind of squeamish about it, or say, well, I'm not sure, but maybe this, maybe that. Sometimes I think these were bold because they've been taught, because they knew God, because they were bold enough to stand up to Him and say, this is what happened. And he'd been around them. He knew them. I guess he had trusted them. But the leaders I've seen in movies don't act like this, They usually do something bad to the people that disobey Him. And so they didn't kill the babies. So that kind of made him mad because they weren't being killed. So he decides they got to throw them all into the river. He tried to diminish the strength of Hebrews to command those midwives. And thirdly, if they were angry, truly aroused, and sets to make the decree that male newborns were to be cast in the river and die. It doesn't talk a whole lot about how many or how much they did. Or later on, we're going to see one of them was survived. But we see here again the Israelites and God winning over Pharaoh, because who is Pharaoh fighting? He thinks he's fighting the Israelites, but who is he really fighting? God. Another interesting thing is when we get down here is when Moses is born. Some of the things that goes on there, and like I said, some of the history and the side things go on here, because this leads into all kinds of other stuff. It's hard to keep it all straight. When I was studying, you kept getting off track on the other things. Like Howard read in Acts and in Hebrews, some of the stuff it tells a little more detail of what happened here in some cases. So that's chapter 1. Anybody got anything on chapter 1 that I might have missed, or they feel like we need to go over again, or make sure we understand what's going on here? Some people. Me and my wife have discussed this a lot. We don't understand. That's why we try to read and study some. The amount of horrific things that went on in the Old Testament to people. the killing of children, the killing of all these all people. You know, you think the movies and today's life is horrific. Back then, it sounded pretty bad because they would kill thousands of people just at the flick of a wrist. You know, just say they're gone, and like you say, innocent people. Think people didn't do anything. Any other points? Mark some stuff in the book here I wanted to read, but I forget this. That was about the identity of Pharaoh. That's all. Okay, ready to go on chapter 2? Unless anybody else got anything to say about chapter 1. Okay, let's see if we can read 2, 1 through 8. Who's got? Go ahead.
She took for him a basket made of bulrushes and dabbed it with pitch. She put the child in it and placed it among the reeds by the river bank. And his sister stood in the distance to know what would be done to him. Now the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, while her young women walked. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the girl went and called the child mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your maidens." So the woman took the child and nursed him. When the child grew up, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses because she said, "I drew him out of the water."
Okay, here we come where Moses comes into the picture. On the what are some things that we learn about Moses here? What are some things we learn about him right at this point, before he's even old enough yet? What's one of the first things? What was he born into?
House of Levi.
House of Levi. And what else they noticed about this child?
Well, the parents saw that he was special. They saw something in his child to go against the king's commandments. Called their deaths if they found out.
Yeah.
They kept him hid as long as they possibly could.
They says in here was a goodly child. I don't know what some other versions might say something else, but that there's something about this child that, and it tells you that in Hebrews 11:23. It talks about that, and what they did this upon faith. You know, here's again where faith overrides being scared. Faith overrides anything we have. If we have the faith, we know that no matter what happens to us in our trek with God, that He's going to take care of us if we have that faith. And they had faith that God would take care of this child. He had something special in store for him. It said, I think in Acts 7:17 through 21, it talks about that. So when they couldn't hide him anymore, they put him in the river, and That'd be kind of hard to do, wouldn't it? And hope that somebody would find him. You think they might have maybe a notion that Pharaoh's daughter might be bathed there or come there or do something, maybe that somebody would be there and see.
Providence involved here.
Providence involved.
I don't know if they come up with this idea or how they did that. It saved Moses, and then God used him he had plans on using him for something good later on.
And then for the father's daughter to ignore Pharaoh's edict about the children, that's kind of significant too. You wonder what was going on in her mind when she did that, if he found out about that. Any other comments on those verses? Okay.
It's amazing how the mother of this child did all this, and then she got to raise him as her own child. And
We're going to get to that. Okay. We need somebody can read 2:9 through 10. Nine through 10. 2:9 through 10.
Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, Because I drew him out of the water.
One of the things that's interesting here is, it seems like everything fell into place there too easy, didn't it? Of course, God's providence probably had something to do with that, and they probably had something to do with that, knowing some of the things that went on there and how things worked. And it's irony too. It makes for a good movie today. Here's the leader, and his daughter is taking the man in that's going to do away with him or lead his people out, and paying the mother to take care of it. I mean, you can't make that stuff up, can you? That's sort of the irony in this here. Any other comments on those verses? Anybody got anything?
And what was Pharaoh himself?
Yeah, let her do that.
Having made the edict to kill all the male Hebrew children, allow that child to be saved.
Of course, that was his daughter that was raising it too. Vice maybe so. Of course, sometimes we wish God would have told us a little more information, but we have to guess at some of it. Yeah. Any other comments on that? It's sort of interesting that would happen. Of course, God knew what He was doing. Okay, we need to read on to 11 through 14. Yeah, y'all help me pick some people because
It came to pass in those days when Moses was grown that he went out to his brethren and looked at their burdens. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 Hebrew men were fighting. And he said to the one who did the wrong, Why are you striking your companion? Then he said, Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you did kill the Egyptian? So Moses feared and said, Surely this thing is known.
Okay, first off here, he kills an Egyptian. Why didn't you just stop him? Why did he kill him? Do we know why? Or what was going on through his mind when he killed this person?
He is defending his Hebrew brother.
Now, how did he know all this about Hebrews? And he was raised an Egyptian. Yeah, his mother raised him too. So, what was it? He would learn it in Egyptian culture and Egyptian things, and his mother, I'm sure, taught him a bunch of Hebrew things. There's a little question on whether he did it in anger or whether he did it, but he murdered somebody. I mean, basically, is what he did. Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah, if he couldn't get away with it, the story's over and we're done. We're not here today.
He's also an Egyptian in a sense, because the daughter took him as her own.
Yeah.
So, of course, I guess the Hebrew part of it that way or the other. But you think he ran off, this found out he did it.
Of course, you find out later he answers questions of that he'd follow God before he'd follow the Egyptians, and he's probably fighting with that at the time, fighting with that within his mind, struggling with the fact that he was raised as an Egyptian, but he was a Hebrew child, and his mother taught him those things. He was probably conflicted a little bit, trying to understand what was going on when he did that. Of course, then he finds two people fighting, and he kind of snuck around too. He looked one way or the other to make sure nobody was looking. He knew it wasn't something to be doing. Then he goes and he breaks up a fight between two Hebrews. He didn't think anybody knew about what happened, did he? And of course they were both Hebrews, so he didn't kill one. He just asked him, "Why are you doing this?" And of course, then it's funny that they didn't respect him enough. They said, "Well, you've killed somebody. Who are you to tell us how to live?" How old was he when this happened? He was about 40, and he's old enough to know what he was doing, old enough to have his things. But Moses clearly had faith in Jehovah God at this point in his life when Moses killed the Egyptian. We were told that he thought his brethren stood that God by his hand was given the deliverance, but they understood not. Acts 7:25. And in Hebrews 11, 24, and 27, it says, "By faith Moses, when he was grown up, he refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to share ill treatment with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, accounting the reproach of Christ greater than riches, than the treasures of Egypt, for he looked unto the recompense reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for endured as seeing him who is invisible." Can we have that kind of faith? Can we have that kind of commitment to God? I mean, he'd rather suffer than. Evidently he had anything he wanted there in Egypt, didn't he? Riches, power, whatever he wanted to have. It continued on. So that's what we need to pattern our life after these patriarchs, these people that had the faith in that they had, and they don't have the promise that we have as much. We've got the Bible, we've got the whole Bible, we've got Christ who died for us, and we'll see a lot of parallels in that as we go through Moses. So, any other comments on those on that scriptures? Okay, we need to read 2:15 through 20. One of the things I forgot to mention on the previous video, Moses was afraid when he found out that Pharaoh knew about it. But in Hebrews 11:24, he said, By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king. Well, there he says he's not afraid, but up there he was afraid. Is that a contradiction?
Well, no, he didn't fear the wrath of the king to kill him, but then he ran because, he picked sides, is what he did.
Yeah.
He was like an Egyptian, like your son about a while ago.
If you know you're going to be killed, I don't know that he was afraid. He was concerned that he might be killed. I mean, one of the commentators said he probably could have got around it another way, but it's a different afraid, I think. Afraid of him killing him, but then got away with it. Probably him.
Yeah, he could have executed him and been Pharaoh's grandson. Nothing would have been said. No murder. But he picked the wrong side. Why did he kill them? And why did he kill the Israelites? That's probably what it is, what Pharaoh would ask.
Yeah. This is this next section here is kind of straightforward. He goes down there and these shepherd drove off these daughters and wouldn't let them water their animals and stuff and get the stuff, and he saved them. Find out there's three things happen here. It defines sort of the character of Moses. First off, he killed the Egyptian to protect the Hebrew, the weaker one, or and he helped the Hebrews with their fighting. He felt bad because they were fighting, and he's compassionate on them, and he helped the ladies. So he was a compassion for the oppressed. I think that's one of his endearing qualities. And that's why God brought him up and picked him because of this qualities, don't you think? Because he wanted to look after the weak person, take care of them. Yeah. But you need to be teaching this. You need to be teaching up here. Right. Anybody got any other comments about the daughters and what happened there? It's kind of simple. Unless somebody else has got a little deeper thought. All right, 2:21 through 25. Okay, it's sort of straightforward too. The man takes him in, gives him one of his daughters, and he has children. I didn't get to study the significance of the children he had. I know there's probably some significance of them down the road and what they did. If anybody wants to bring that out, they can. The Pharaoh that was there died, and so the children thought they were okay, didn't they? Thought they'd be all right now because this guy probably wouldn't do the same thing. But we'll find out later what happened. One of the things I wanted to kind of go over, as we got 5 more minutes. Let's see. The similarities between Christ and Moses. See if we can find some. I mean, Moses and Jesus Christ. Anybody name some of the similarities between the two? Both were lawgivers. When were they born? In times of what? persecution.
Both of them had ordinary lives. There wasn't no miracles involved. Every day was a day up one day after another. Up until this time, Moses
Yeah.
was just a guy that lived his life. Started extensively. There was no big miracles happening.
But they live exemplary lives, though. They stayed faithful, did things for God. They might have been ordinary, but they were faithful and did things that normal people don't do.
I don't see Moses as religious. I see Moses as just a guy that living his life as a Hebrew in a nation that persecutes Hebrews, that takes one day at a time, and God in his providential care is taking care of him for a reason. And he doesn't know about till the bush. You know, he meets shepherds, he kills a guy, he's just an ordinary old guy that went along like me and you, and then God decides, all right, I'm going to use him for my purpose, just like he does me and you today.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ was raised by people up in West Virginia that had no fame or fortune, and God used him for a purpose.
But they became both spokesmen for God, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't see Moses knowing he had a purpose in him.
Well, I don't know. They alluded to that did he know or not know? Did people kind of in the back of their mind knew because of what he was like? They did that. Now later on, both of them performed miracles. And Moses and Christ delivered God's people. That's another similarity. And both Moses and Christ received heavenly rewards for their service. You see a lot of God's providence in this as we go on through here. Moses' decisions that he makes based on, I think, he had to have the Egyptian raising and the Hebrew raising to make the right decisions and to understand what's going to go on later on. I think that helps him having that knowledge. The biggest thing I get out of all this for us is having the faith that I talked about to stand up to the world today, to be a light to the world today too. People start looking up to Moses and to lead others and to not let the devil get you down. And one of the things that I think that helps that is the fellowship we have one with another. We have to help each other. And when I'm having a hard time, I'm up here at church, and Roy sometimes can talk to me. I talk to Dustin sometimes, and that helps me keep on track. When I got other people to talk to about my life and about things to go, we have a men's breakfast on Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. You know, some of you need to come to that and help us out, because I need some more people there to help me understand my life and help me keep on track. Anybody got anything else they can say about chapter 1 and 2? So he's supposed to get 3 more teachers. I hope so, because I need a little more time to study next time. But I did. He asked me to do it Sunday, and I said, I'll do it. And I said, I'm doing it for me, not for everybody else, because I need to do it. And it helps me out to study and learn. Thank you, everybody. I forgot to ask you, how come pharaohs were so rich? They had a pyramid scheme. Pyramid scheme.